Hello, it's Victoria from Coastal Themes, and I'm back with another video. In this video, I'm going to be quickly talking to you about why I see clients and people moving from Webflow to Framer more and more frequently. So there's obviously the usual culprits of people moving from WordPress to Framer, from Wix to Framer. As people start to realize how user-friendly Framer is, how easy it is to edit it, as a non-technical person, it is becoming more and more attractive because what you can achieve with little to no effort is becoming more and more outstanding on Framer, and they're releasing epic things every single day. If you have used Webflow, it goes without saying that Webflow is much more complex, and we've done a Webflow versus Framer video before, so I'm not going to dive into all the ins and outs of the Webflow kind of interface, but even on a surface level, looking at it, there's lots more to look at. It is more complex, and there's no doubt about it, but it does obviously have its benefits. Adding custom code, doing much more complex animations, using GSAP, using so many cool kind of web-based effects and code libraries is much more possible on Webflow to achieve much more complex things. And there is a time and a place for Webflow. But when we look at the different user types, it is becoming way more distinct. Whereas when Webflow came into the ecosystem, to the industry, it was posed as a no-code tool. But over time, because it's evolved, because people are starting to do these very interactive sites on Webflow, it's kind of allowing people to do the bulk of their builds with no code, but then finish it up with code and making it super advanced. And I think Webflow has really leaned into that. They've also included kind of the complexity of CMSs, of e-commerce, of A/B testing, of insights, of membership platforms. Whereas Framers come in and said this is a web builder for designers, and more than just designers, for marketers, for non-tech people, and it really just does stay true to the no-code aspect. So I'm going to show you one example, and that is if I click on this hero title, you can see Webflow uses classes basically, and you can see here they're called style selectors, but it's a way to change the styling. And as soon as we go down, kind of we've got all the styles nested, and a lot of the ways things are characterized on Webflow is very similar to the way you'd write it in HTML and CSS, so classes, IDs, and the ways of styling and the ways of applying it to different breakpoints and the ways of using effects and so on. Whereas on Framer, it is more intuitive. If I click on this heading, I do have the ability to change the position and the size, but there's nothing to do with IDs, and text styling is much more accessible, as well as the kind of class element. So you're able to create text styles, but these dictate the classes. There's no nested classes and complex naming systems like you can have on Webflow, and it does get a bit complex. So this really stays true to the nature of kind of Figma and how that logic is and that thought system is, and brings it straight into build. Whereas Webflow has that skill kind of gap. If you go from Figma to Webflow, you may need to learn a few new things. The next one worth pointing out is how easy it is to add animations on Framer. So even just hover animations, it's kind of baked into the way you're building your components. You've got hover states, and you can add effects when you are transitioning between these. And on just plain areas themselves, you can simply add effects. They give you a set of presets. You can also do scroll effects, but then you can import all those pre-made components and plugins and everything from the Framer marketplace, which expands what you can do on Framer if you do want to get complex. But animations, even just simple ones to really enhance an experience, are really baked into the way you use the tool and way you use Framer. If I jump into Webflow, it's almost impossible or quite difficult to find where animations actually sit. So we do have transitions, and there's way more. So some might argue that Webflow is probably better built for complex animations, but in terms of applying it, you do need a bit extra knowledge. So if we see opacity, so this would be a transition, but then we also have these things called interactions, and it's dictated by triggers, either page triggers like page load or element triggers, so what happens to the individual element we're on. And you can also connect another element as a trigger and then make something else do the thing. So it can get very complex, and like here there's just a lot of options, and I think that is kind of what we kind of can notice between Framer and Webflow, is that you've got a lot more options on Webflow, so doing basic things or seemingly basic things is much harder and more time consuming. I think what a lot of people realize is that they're using Webflow because they came onto Webflow initially and they came onto it for the appeal of the animation, of the no-code aspects, but now we're not really using it to its full potential anymore. There's many sites that are well positioned to be on Webflow and many sites that are way underusing its capabilities. For example, I built a site on Webflow 2 years ago before I even discovered what Framer was. And now looking at the site that I built, which now loads very, very slowly, looking at the site that I built, yes, I could incorporate some noise aspect. It does have a play button, and despite the load speed, because of the very large images, I'm looking at this site and realizing that all the kind of effects that I wanted to achieve on the site, I could have easily achieved this on Framer and probably had a faster site. It would have been much quicker to build. It would have been way less painful, especially when it comes to breakpoints and responsive design. I've since realized that actually it's my internet that's making this slow. It's not the site itself. So that's kind of a relief for me. So if I jump back to Framer, you can see it's just so much easier to pull through your designs, and really depending on what you're looking for. If you want to ship fast, I recommend Framer, and that is what I'm seeing from my clients. They're often clients who have a Framer site because that's what was trending at the time. It worked for them because it was slightly better than a custom built site. It was more advanced in terms of what it offered compared to things like Wix or Squarespace, which also went through its own time. Again, underusing it. They wanted very corporate, plain sites, and it was becoming more and more difficult to edit it. The pricing is a bit higher, and you do need a lot of skill, and you can't just jump into it easily like you can now, especially with Framer, especially with things like on-page editing and the really, really approachable CMS, especially adding new things in the CMS. That is why I've seen people moving from Webflow to Framer. Maybe you've moved from Framer to Webflow, maybe you move back. That's just because you probably need something on Webflow that Framer doesn't quite have. Framer doesn't have membership options, they don't have built-in e-commerce yet, so there are things we're still waiting for on Framer that we hope are going to come really, really soon, that will just bring it in line with things that Webflow have that are making it harder to move away. So it's interesting to see where it goes, and yeah, let me know in the comments below why you've moved, why you've stayed, if there's any other tools you've moved to. But if you are still using Webflow, remember we do have Webflow templates on our website coastalthemes.com, as well as our Framer templates and our Ghost templates. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.